back with the Dr. Joe Show. Talking about stuff.
Yeah, I just wanted to
pretty
see,
heavy.
I wanted to see where you would go with
Pretty
that.
heavy. Heavy.
It's incredible. We have three amazing guests here. Let's get right into the writing part. All right. So Cheryl, you created the writing. It's called. Give it to me again. I'm sorry. It's
the nonprofit.
Yeah.
Writers Without Margins.
Writers Without Margins. What a wonderful image. Where did that idea come from?
You know, my background, my professional background, was working with adult survivors of child abuse, specifically child molestation, and I was recognizing, well, two things. One, the trajectory of early childhood trauma and how it led too many folks to criminal histories, to problems with authority, to just, all of the wide spectrum of, eating disorders and problems with intimacy, and just all the ways that could take someone into, adult issues that were never, intervened with or dealt with. But I also recognize that as much as the litigation was helpful from a public policy standpoint or an individual standpoint, there was something happening with the silence breaking and the solidarity that felt a lot like a writing workshop, as I'd experienced both academically. And then when I went back to school to get an MFA, I thought, this is something I have access to, but what about all the folks who perhaps dealt with trauma that didn't have access to this, and why not? It's so low resource. So I started working at the St. Francis House, and then when there were additional requests, I said this could be a broader, bigger organization, and that's what we did.
And this predated ACEs, right? The Adverse Childhood Experience data, or was it right around the same time as that?
I'd never heard of it, but once I saw that, I was like, oh, it's a real thing.
Right.
It's not just my observation.
No, it's a real thing. We had Ed Jacobs on, who's a guy who's a specialist in ACEs. We have another guest here who we just haven't had an opportunity to introduce yet. Come on in. Can we get another chair, Ben? Ben's going to bring us in a chair.
Microphone at a minimum, right?
We have here the wonderful Mr. Stephen Smith. Can we say your last name as well?
Kennedy Smith or Stephen Smith.
Which one would you prefer?
Whichever one you like is
Welcome.
fine with me.
Well, are you okay? What's going on?
I did. I had a little regenerative medicine procedure done on my knee in Germany, actually.
Whoa.
But, I'm good. I'm good to go. I'm an ex-athlete, so I'd like to, have my knees in good shape.
Absolutely. Well, welcome. So
thanks.
We have been just sort of absorbing, the amazing work you guys are doing and the message that you're trying to get across. And you and I had a chance to meet where I think it was up in Lowell.
Correct,
a few months ago.
Sure.
So tell us your part of this.
So I did, so I'm the board chair of this organization. And I really believe, so I did this book, JFK, A Vision for America, about President Kennedy a couple of years ago for the 100th anniversary of President Kennedy's birth. And of course, he conceived of the National Endowment for the Arts and Humanities because he thought that art was vital to a healthy democracy, and that art had the ability to draw on human capabilities and imagination and aspects of the human person that were essential to a vital, flourishing society. And so I think this work that Writers Without Margins is doing is very connected to that, to that purpose of actually enabling people to connect around things that really mean something to them, making people visible to each other, creating community, and building a deeper understanding of the human spirit, which is, of course, what President Kennedy said, that in the final analysis we would be remembered not by our victories in battle, but by our contribution to the human spirit. So I think that's what this organization does. It enables people who are voiceless to have a voice. It enables people who don't understand the problems that these communities have to understand these problems. And so that's why I believe in this work so deeply. And of course, you being a psychiatrist know that the data speaks to the reality of the fact that this works for a number of behavioral health issues. And not only that, but for a healthier democracy and a healthier citizenship. So I'm really grateful for your voice on this issue and for giving us the opportunity to come here and, let people know what we're doing.
Well, I'm thrilled. I'm telling you, we have a wide range of people who listen, and they're listening because they really believe in value and in that. Let's get rid of this stigma thing. I mean, if we keep having stigma, we shouldn't be surprised that people aren't going to come out and tell us their stories. Why should they come out and tell us their stories if they think they're going to be judged? So that's why I'm so delighted that you're here as well.
Thanks a lot. And, you know, Maura Healey, who's the Attorney General, came to the Kennedy Library, which I'm on the board of. And what she told me was that almost 80% of the people in the mass prison system at some point had contact with foster care. That's an astounding statistic. So basically, what we're dealing with is people who have unstable childhood, unstable childhoods, who develop behavioral health issues because of that instability, and sometimes substance abuse issues, and then that behavior is criminalized, and then we have a prison population that's largely stigmatized and then pushed outside of the mainstream of society. Instead of trying to bring people in, instead of trying to heal people, we're basically using the prison system as a punishment tool for people who haven't had the opportunity in life to succeed. So I don't think people do that deliberately. It's the mechanism that we have. So we need to have these other opportunities, like Writers Without Margins and like alternative sentencing and like, drug courts and so forth, where people can get back into society and not be stigmatized.
Right. Well, I think, our human brain, unfortunately, is designed to compare sets of information. And so if we have a group of people who are doing everything that we think they should do and compare them to a group of people who are not, it's very easy for us to say, we don't want you part of our group, so we're going to put you somewhere else. That's why I personally don't use the word like disorder. I never will use depressive disorder, attention deficit disorder, substance abuse disorder, because as soon as you have a disorder, you've created two groups. One group that's disordered and one group that isn't, and then we're astonished we have stigma. These words, these little words are so important. So
can I just say one thing personally about our family, which everyone knows, is that there's people in our family who've had substance abuse issues in the Kennedy family. So if you look at our family, we had 2 traumatic, violent events. 3 of Robert F. Kennedy's children had substance abuse issues after his assassination. Some of their children had substance abuse issues because they were affected by that traumatic violence. So no one is immune to this issue. It doesn't matter whether you're privileged or not. It's a question of human life and what people go through. And of course, in some communities, there's a lot more violence. There's a lot more trauma. There's a lot more unsafety. So in those communities, we have more people who are affected.
Absolutely true. And we can do something about it.
Absolutely.
And that's what you're doing about it.